everyone. We are sitting here in the Clarion Congress Hotel Prague as part of the Update Conference Prague 2021. And the panel discussion is starting right now. So I have three very nice guests who came to the Czech Republic from various parts of the world. So can you just tell something about yourself? Okay.
Yes. My name is Barbara Forbes. I am from the Netherlands and I am an Azure MVP. I am a GitHub star and I work as the Azure technical lead in the Netherlands.
Perfect.
Hello, my name is Johnny Hooyberghs. I'm from Belgium, so I'm a neighbor of Barbara.
Yeah.
I'm a Microsoft MVP in Microsoft Technologies and Developer Technologies. I work as a consultant doing mostly .NET related backend and architectural work. And I'm very happy to be here today.
And I'm Brandon Minnick. I came from California. I work at Microsoft as a developer advocate, so primarily focusing on .NET. My background is mostly in mobile. I work at a startup called Xamarin that Microsoft acquired. So I've been doing a lot with the .NET team, .NET MAUI, if you've heard about that. I'll be giving a talk on that tomorrow morning, so you can come check that out, and also happy to answer any questions on that stuff today.
Cool. So before we have the questions from the audience, and I encourage everyone, if you have any questions to the guest, just raise your hand and somebody with the microphone will come to you. So our first topic of discussion can be DevOps, because I think it's relevant for all developers, and not only developers, also for system admins, for security consultants, basically everyone. So what's your favorite tools or technologies for doing DevOps, and which part of the DevOps process you participate in?
I think the most fun part is the pipelines, CI/CD pipelines, and I think most people are familiar with Azure DevOps and GitHub Actions, and specifically GitHub Actions has gone through so much development the last year. It's really impressive. You're able to do a lot of really great stuff with that.
Perfect. So mostly Azure DevOps and GitHub Actions. Johnny?
Yeah, for me it's the same story. I've been using TFS for many years. Actually, when I became a professional developer, I was using TFS, so I'm a little bit biased, because when always doing TFS and now doing Azure DevOps, I really like that everything is integrated into one single platform. And just like you said, the power that's in pipelines today, you can basically do whatever you want. You can do your builds, your deployments as extensive as you want. So I really like that to minimize the effort for DevOps-related processes.
Yeah, I mean, I work at Microsoft, so obviously I have to double down on GitHub Actions, Azure Pipelines, Azure DevOps. But I found for me, I do a lot of open source work, so I'm a maintainer on a bunch of repos where you never know what you're gonna get when pull requests come in. Also being kind of an indie dev, an individual developer, where this is just stuff I do in the free time. Nobody's paying me to maintain these open source projects yet. Where if you do your DevOps properly, it can just save you so much time. Setting up DevOps is definitely a pain. If you've ever tried it, you've probably, at least the first time, just beating your head against the wall for a week because nothing's working, you can't get it to do what you want to do. But then once you get it working, then you don't have to do as much work in the future. So if somebody, say, opens up a pull request on your repo, you can have it kick off this whole pipeline where it'll build everything, it'll run all your unit tests. That way you know their code even works before you even look at it. That's always my first thing. I'll look for like that green check mark or the red X. And if it's got a red X, then I don't even give it a second glance. I'll just be like, all right, something's failing, fix it. And so, yeah, I've definitely taken advantage of DevOps to help make my life easier. Like just investing that time, building out that pipeline, and then you don't have to necessarily worry as much down the road. You can't get too complacent, but it definitely helps speed things up, which is really, really nice.
Awesome. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I was wondering how often have you had when you're building a pipeline, how many commit messages it can take before you finally get it working, and it's always worth it, but it can take so long.
Yeah, indeed.
And my personal advice, start using emojis at one point. It makes it so much more fun when you see your emotional state through the process.
I like that. Yeah, no, I literally spent last night just working on a new pipeline, playing around with the .NET MAUI stuff, which is still new to me. I mean, heck, Microsoft hasn't even released it yet. Trying to get CI pipelines working with new technologies, and you just basically you commit something and you go, I hope this works, and then it fails, and you go, all right, well, let's try it like this, and then you commit it again and you go, I hope this works, and then like you said, you have like 10 commits, and it's like maybe this.
This will work. No, now it will work. This will finally work. Oh, come on, it should work. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, these are the updated Azure pipelines YAML file. So that's what learned me to squash the commits when I'm doing a lot of commits, a lot of tiny updates to the pipeline, the same file basically. Yeah. So do we have any questions in the audience? Oh, there is a question.
So I want to ask, we have release pipelines and normal build pipelines. Are release pipelines deprecated or something, or what's the preferred way to do the releases now? Is it built in one style and do the release pipelines using the release tab, or all in one? What is preferred way nowadays?
In Azure DevOps, I guess.
Yeah, in Azure DevOps.
So, like, should you use release or do everything with the build pipeline?
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, that's a personal preference, as always. So it depends. But in my opinion, I haven't touched released in months, years, because it's not code-based, and I want everything to be code-based. So I don't want to repeat the process and click through it. So for me, it's all YAML now, and it's all in the build pipeline.
I'm actually using build pipeline specifically for my CI builds, and then running unit tests and doing additional tests, and then generating the artifacts. But also when I'm doing like NuGet packages, that's part of the build pipeline. So the build pipeline will build the NuGet package. It will even publish the NuGet package to some kind of feed, maybe an internal feed or like the public NuGet feed. But then I still use release pipelines because I like the fact that you can do it in multiple stages. You can have like a release that goes to your test environment, and then you can automatically, when that is successful, you can automatically release it to your UAT environment. And then you can have these manual steps, manual processes where somebody can click a button that says, okay, I accept the UAT environment, and then it can go to production. So I like that kind of structure that is, I think, available in release pipelines, but not in build pipelines.
It's also in build.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It takes a bit more work, I will
It takes
admit.
a bit more work,
you really
right,
have to
then
want it. But especially if you have a release that needs to be approved by someone who might not be that familiar with the technology, like a testing team or a manager or something like that, then that's a good use case. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there a way how to publish the old version of the code from the build pipelines? Because the release pipelines for me are the main advantage is that I can single click auto release, publish this, and it will just work. No more building the same code. It will just work from the old one. But can I do something similar from the build pipelines?
I have a very hard time hearing it. Did you hear it?
I heard you, but I didn't understand the question.
Sorry. So the main advantage of release pipelines for me is ability to release old artifacts. One click to release. Can I do something similar in build pipelines?
So like old artifacts.
I think the question you're asking is a build builds your code, but a release reuses the same artifacts.
Exactly.
So you want to have the same flexibility within the build pipeline. So you're asking, can a build release something without rebuilding the entire source code?
Yeah, just take old artifact which I know that worked before and put it to production again with the build pipeline.
I'm sure that you're. Did you want to answer?
I don't know.
I'm sure that you're able to do that because I did that before. So I worked for a customer who did not want to use the releases specifically because they wanted to release to different customers, and some of those customers did not have the Azure DevOps does not have access to them. So they just want to release a package. So we created some PowerShell where you can use the Azure DevOps API, so the internal API. You can call that, and you can get artifacts from that. You can just download those artifacts into your pipeline and then do whatever you want with them. So yes, it's possible, but you have to do some manual work there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, any more questions from the audience?
Hello, my name is Przemek. Just because we were speaking about how many commits it takes to publish valid YAML, I started an open source project where you can use C# instead of YAML. It's called Sharpliner. I'm looking for contributors, so it's like a self-promotion, but it's already working, so maybe it's like the right ground here for this. So if you're interested, it's called Sharpliner. Totally welcoming any help. We are just now trying to push it in .NET. I don't know if that will work actually. So the .NET organization uses this, but we'll see.
Okay, thank you.
So what's the name again? Sharpliner? Great, cool.
I think I heard about that project. Yeah, I think so. Somebody told me about it a couple of months ago, and I really want to look into that.
Hi, I have a question for Brandon. So tomorrow's lecture is on Maui, but let's talk about the current stuff. Let's talk about Xamarin. So, what's the story there? Will we get support for .NET 6, maybe .NET 7? Because we are still working with Xamarin. Maui is not released yet. So, how are we going to proceed with our projects until Maui is ready?
Yeah, no, good question. So, right, Maui's release date got pushed back to, we're saying, Q2 2022. So, probably sometime around May is when we'll GA .NET Maui. And for anybody that has never heard of .NET Maui or Xamarin, Xamarin allows you to build native iOS and Android apps in C#. So, really, all Xamarin does mic check, there we go. Xamarin just wraps every iOS API, it wraps every single Android API and exposes them in C#, so you can still build totally native apps. So .NET Maui is basically the evolution of Xamarin. Me, personally, since I used to work at Xamarin, I see it as kind of the culmination of the Xamarin acquisition. So we're bringing in the Xamarin technology, the Xamarin libraries into .NET. So in .NET 6, you'll have the option to build a .NET 6 iOS app or a .NET 6 Android app. So with Xamarin, will Xamarin come to .NET 6? Yes and no, but it's coming as the .NET 6 iOS SDK. So we're bringing in that iOS, Android, those libraries into the .NET SDK, which is really cool. In terms of like what's the future, like what's the support? The plan is continue supporting Xamarin Forms for a year after the release date. So no new features will be added, but yeah, like maintenance, bug fixes, and those will continue going on for a year. And then after that, it'll just be .NET Maui. So what you'll want to do is, let's see. So iOS and Android usually release around August, September. This is usually when like iOS 14 will probably come out next September, October. So that'll still be in that maintenance phase. So Xamarin will still be around for iOS 14, but probably not for iOS 15. So I would kind of plan the timelines around that, because if you start needing those new features that are in iOS 15 or whatever Android calls their next version, that's when you'll want to start migrating. So the good news is .NET Maui, if you're building a Xamarin Forms app, XAML, MVVM, all that fun stuff, .NET Maui is almost identical to us as the developers that are consuming it. A lot of the work in .NET Maui was done under the hood. Like, it's completely re-architected. That's what I'm going to show off tomorrow morning, is how .NET Maui works. So to port the code from Xamarin Forms to .NET Maui is pretty straightforward. It's just mostly changing namespaces. Instead of Xamarin.Forms, it'll be Microsoft.Maui. I see the biggest hurdle being third-party NuGet packages. So if you're using NuGet packages like popular ones like FF image loading is a popular one, those NuGet packages have dependencies on Xamarin Forms. You can't bring those into .NET MAUI. So each library maintainer has to release a new version of their NuGet package where they've ripped out Xamarin Forms and targeted .NET MAUI. So what I'm working on right now is actually trying to help library maintainers start doing that now. Because if we can get them updating their libraries, then by the time .NET MAUI GAs in, let's say, May, then it'll be easier for us. But if there's that one NuGet package that we need and we can't live without, and the library maintainer hasn't updated the .NET MAUI, then we're kind of stuck. So for us as developers, porting the code, pretty straightforward, because it's literally Xamarin Forms, XAML, just copy paste, change the namespace. But yeah, I see the third-party NuGet packages being probably the biggest challenge upgrading. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, you've probably got about a year and a half, because you've got all the way up until the next release from iOS and Android after Xamarin Forms is no longer supported to finally push out that new app to the App Store. So that's probably, say, almost 2 years from now. So start planning ahead. But yeah, feel free to join me at the talk tomorrow. We can chat afterwards if you have more questions. But yeah, it's really exciting. You're going to get a lot of really nice performance improvements for free just based on this completely new architecture under the hood.
I don't see anyone else in the audience with the question, but if you have any questions, just raise your hand and the mic will come to you. And until we have other questions, I have another area which I would like to open, which is security. So what's your stance on security? What technologies or tools you work with in order to make your applications or solutions secure?
Yeah, for me, I'm on the Azure side. I often work around applications where other people are developing them, and I make sure they fit right into that Azure environment. And Azure has a lot of tools to help with security, even if you can't help it with your code. They have a lot of quality testing in there. What we call zero trust, which sounds like, yeah, that's a good idea. It's pretty hard to implement, actually, completely. But on identity base, for example, you can do so much already with sign-ins, what people can sign into an app, who has permissions to do what in it. But also network-wise, application gateways, there's a lot of AI there, a lot of stuff that can really help you out, even if it's not within the application, to have sort of a wrapper around and keep it all secure, especially in a hybrid environment where you have internal applications who are not meant to see the outside world, but people want to use them from home, because that's where we are right now. We don't want to work from the office. And there are some really great solutions network-wise to make sure you can do that completely secure, completely identified, and have with the authentication through Azure AD. People get blocked whenever there is any sense of suspicion that their account may be taken over. So stuff like that can really help out for, especially web applications. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard a lot of times from my customers that, this is just our internal tool, so we don't need to spend a lot of effort to make it secure, because no one knows about this tool, but it's not the good approach to security.
Yeah, and that's always the tool with the most personal amount of data.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a scary thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Johnny, what's your experience? What would you?
Well, I'm working mostly for corporate clients, so a lot of them still are doing things on premise. So in most cases, they're just using Windows authentication based on Active Directory. So that is integrated into .NET. But of course, when you're doing things outside of that, you should look at things like in Azure. There's so much tools there that can help you, like Azure AD for single sign-on stuff. When you have applications talking to other applications that are all hosted in Azure, it's very easy to just pass those authentications to all of the other things. And indeed, when I work for smaller customers, they're still storing passwords in databases, for example. Please don't store your passwords in a database. There's so many great and easy tools to help you with that. And a large part of that is just a part of ASP.NET, so ASP.NET can even help you with that. So don't store passwords.
Yeah, exactly. There is the ASP.NET Identity, which has it solved the right way.
Yeah.
It should be solved. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and I'd say just to add on to that, don't try to invent your own security platform.
Yeah.
Somebody out there is a lot smarter than you, has already created a robust security platform. So like we've already mentioned, like Azure AD. Use tools like that. Maybe you're really big into security, but for most folks, you're going to mess up somewhere. So I've really found, the best plan is just to offload and use somebody else's tools. Like if you can avoid capturing logins at all, perfect. Like if you can use social logins, like let people log in using their GitHub account or let people log in using their Microsoft account. That way you don't even have to do any password management. You don't have to worry about resetting passwords, adding users, deleting users. Especially with GDPR, you have to save all their data, and it just becomes such a headache.
And with Azure, it's really easy to set up. It's not complicated to set it up.
Right. So, use the tools in Azure. Also give a shout out to Azure Key Vault. I use that for a lot of my apps.
Yeah.
That one's also great. Just even as developers, we all have to share keys or passwords sometimes, and sometimes you have to rotate those keys. And so instead of going around to everybody on your team saying, "Hey, just a heads up, we got to rotate the key today. Here's the new one." If you just put it in Key Vault, then they get it for free, and everything will just keep working. So, use the tools in Azure. Don't try to invent your own thing. But there's companies like Auth0 is a big one on security. Blanking on any other ones, but
and by the way, Azure DevOps has perfect integration with Azure Key Vault. So you don't even need to store any of your variables inside of Azure DevOps. You can store them in Azure Key Vault and integrate that with Azure DevOps. So that's also very easy to do.
Great. And of course, don't leave your secrets in your code, because that's also the common mistake. You use the Key Vault or any other safe place for secret management and things like that.
Then that's a good thing with GitHub. If you leave a key that they know how it will look, like an Azure key, if you leave it in a public repository, you will get an email saying you did a oopsie. You did wrong.
That's nice.
You might want to rotate that one.
Oh.
I did it one time by mistake, and that's why I know it.
Oh, very nice. Maybe they should send the email before they allow you to commit this.
They might be working through that,
Yeah. So this is very helpful, and I guess that more tools will get features like that. Okay. So any questions in the audience? There is a question.
Just a follow-up on the security topic. I really like the idea of Azure Functions supporting the identity-based authentication since .NET 6. Do you think that we can look forward to next or other Azure services coming with this support in the future?
Good question.
You mean like the managed identity?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You have managed identity, which means that your application acts like an identity within Azure, so it can reach other resources. And you have authentication, and that means when a user enters your app, they have to use some sort of authentication, which can be Azure AD or GitHub or Facebook if you want.
Yeah, I mean, rather than in the previous version of .NET framework, especially for Azure Functions, when we need, for example, to connect to blob storage
for instance, we needed to store the exact connection strings. And now, starting with the .NET 6, we can just set it rather on the blob storage side, that the identity of the Azure functions will have the ability to access some of the resources.
Yeah, I think you should be able to do that with web apps as well.
Yeah, I don't know by heart.
Yeah. And it is on multiple Azure resources is the managed identity thing, because you can also use it to get your stuff from Key Vault.
Yep. Yes, if what you're talking about is what I think you're talking about, pretty much every Azure service can have its own identity, and you can basically give the other Azure services access to that service based on its identity. So you can kind of create your own little ecosystem, and that way you don't have to store any connection strings. They'll just all know to talk to each other, and it's all kind of pre-approved, which is
even with virtual
really
machines,
nice.
You can do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right, huh?
Yeah, I just wanted to pick this up. That I think that is quite nice approach that you can build it rather on the identity than on some connection store in the application.
Yeah, it's so much better than all those connection strings, especially with storage accounts and the SAS keys, and that's all a hassle. And now you can just say manage identity, give it permissions, and you're done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think many Azure services support the managed identity, because when I was using Kubernetes last time, it also, you can tell this pod or this container will run under this identity, so it is able to communicate with other services just based on the container identity. It's some extension you need to install in the Kubernetes cluster, but it is supported. So it's very nice. It helps to make things secure.
Yeah.
So other questions? Okay, so let's wrap up with the last questions. What is your favorite thing you are looking forward in next year? So it can be a new technology or new tool or anything else, or a conference or some nice conference you are trying to go or apply. So.
Yeah, for me that's an easy answer if you know what my session is about. I'm really looking forward to what's happening with Bicep, which is a new version of infrastructure as code specifically for Azure. So much better than ARM templates. It is in public preview at this point. It is supported though, but they're not sure if there might be breaking changes coming up. But that should reach general availability somewhere in the coming year. So, and that has been a life changer if you're working infrastructure as code. And a small promo, if you want to know more about it, I have a session on it tomorrow.
Do you know which time?
I think it's 4:30.
Okay.
Second to last.
Yeah, so it's after the afternoon coffee break. So at 4:30, join Barbara's session about Azure Bicep if you want to.
This is such great and great technology. You really want to know more about it if you work with infra as code at all.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah. I'm going to steal the answer from you. I'm really looking forward to Maui. Because I'm an old school .NET developer. I was doing WinForms, I was doing WPF. I did WinForms applications that looked like WPF by just pouring too much work into that. And now I'm doing Xamarin. So I'm really looking forward to Maui and how it will simplify, hopefully, my work.
Right on. What about WinUI?
WinUI. I've never tried WinUI.
Me neither. But yeah, .NET MAUI uses WinUI. That's how it provides support for
to run on Windows. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So speaking of .NET MAUI, I'll be giving the talk on it tomorrow, 9 a.m. Hall A, right here. So feel free to come check it out. We'll dive into the code, and like I said, we'll check out the architecture. We'll show kind of what a new MAUI app looks like and kind of the changes that you'll have to make to your code, which is only a little bit. But yeah, super excited for .NET MAUI. Bummed that we didn't get to release it alongside .NET 6. But I think it was definitely the right move because the team's now got a couple more months to really fine-tune a lot of things. There was going to be if we released it alongside .NET 6, there was going to be a lot of concessions, and so I'm glad we didn't and chose to actually delay it instead of saying, well, next year in .NET 7 is when we'll put those in. So, yeah, looking forward to next year for .NET MAUI for sure.
Perfect. Awesome. So, in the audience, is there anyone who want to mention some other technology that can maybe come next year and which will be also as amazing? Because for me, for example, it's the news which are prepared for ASP.NET Core and all the developments, also things that concern the hot reload. It's also very nice, and I guess that hot reload will improve in the next year. Okay. And what's next for you? Are you going home after this, or are you?
Well, we're staying till Sunday. We want to see something of the city.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've never been here, so yeah. And otherwise, I have to go home and tell people. They say, "So how is Prague?" And I say, "It's a very nice hotel and a very nice conference center." What was there an outside?
Okay.
So we need to see something of the city.
Mm-hmm. Of course, we will have the tour for speakers on Saturday.
I'm so looking forward to that.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I'm also staying until Sunday afternoon. So I even brought my wife to together walk around this beautiful city. I saw it for the first time today. Really beautiful city, and I will probably come back because 4 days is not enough to see everything.
Right.
Yeah, no, likewise. My plane ticket right now says I'm flying home Monday, but I might actually stay another week because there's NDC Oslo, another conference coming up in Norway. So debating whether or not to fly all the way back to California for a couple days, then fly all the way back to Norway for that. But we'll see. I'll definitely be around all weekend, though.
And that's why Maui is delayed.
Yeah, keep flying back and forth.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining this panel, and I hope that whenever time you will fly home, that it will be the same flight, safe flight, and that I hope that the next year will be better than this one.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so have fun, you enjoy your evening, and see you tomorrow on Update Conference Prague 2021.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any beer left?